Stevens Floral would like to remind you Valentine's Day is Sunday, February 14th. Get your orders in early, as they will be open on the 14th for pickup only. Stevens Floral would like to remind you Valentine's Day is Sunday, February 14th. Get your orders in early, as they will be open on the 14th for pickup only.
We have a quorum. Had to do Studmeyer's on the way, just coming through the door. So, Mike, will lead the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First thing we need to do is review the minutes. 3 sets of minutes that were mailed out to you. January 11th regular meeting, January 14th, January 20th special meeting.
We can hear you really well online.
Okay, Patty Jo made a motion to approve all 3 sets of minutes. Is there a second? Corey seconded. Those in favor? Is there any discussion? Questions? Those in favor of approving the minutes as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Haverfield, would you introduce our visitors, please?
Sure. Online, we have John English, Dan McGee, owner's rep, and English for Canadian students. And in the audience, we have Carol Parashel, Jeremy Anderson, Bruce Holland, Jeremy Crawford, Judy Morrison, Ray Morrison, Kenny Morrison, Zoe Moranis, Casey Elliott, Caleb Ido, Janet Gentry, Kent Graham, Denise Moncamp, and Blake McKay.
Okay, welcome everyone. You want to go over the claims and accounts? Sure.
That's the blue document that you have. I think it's blue, isn't it?
Yep.
So page 1 and 7, very first claim 17578, Office Solutions 3,933.68, various cartridges, and then our quarterly maintenance for this quarter. Down towards the bottom, claim 17585, Brown and Thompson Oil, our latest fill up 8,844.84, $1.94 a gallon. Over on page 2 of 7, towards the bottom, 17595, 5,044.42, various parts for our transportation department. Over on page 3 of 7, claim 17600, Northwest Energy Company, 11,451.09. That's it on that particular page. Over on page 4 of 7, claim 17608, Michelle Energy Northwest, that's our gas transmission for December, 3,199.89. Claim 17610, State of the Heart Therapy, this is speech, for a speech pathologist, and that is for 3,570. And then claim 17612, test, 7,834, purchasing smart boards. And then claim 17614, Yellow Voice and Girls Ranch, 3,198.49. Again, Medicaid reimbursement for our light HDR program. Over on page 5 of 7, claim 17619, Systems Northwest, 45,360.45. This is all the security system technology that we put into BW Lodge as a part of our project over there. Claim 17620, BMO MasterCard, 10,731.85, and this is various expenses that were charged for this month's BMO MasterCard. Over on page 6 of 7, the very top, claim 17622, Building Mine and Body LLC, $350. That's latest payout for Andy owner's rep. Then claim 17626, Department of Revenue, for $26,360.98. This is our gross receipts tax to the state for our building project. We're going to close all that stuff out. And then the next claim down, 17627, Swank Enterprises, $26,790.25. Again, this is their latest payout. Dan will talk about that when he does his report. So those are all the claims I got highlighted for you tonight. Certainly answer any questions. Recommend you approve those claims. Thank you.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the claims and accounts as presented. Are there any other questions or discussion? If not, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, next is public communication and comments. I have one card says, "Dear trustees of BCHS School Board, Beaverhead County High School staff would like to express our gratitude for the extra duty pay. During this pandemic, we have strived to provide quality education for our students and have overcome many obstacles. Thank you for your support and continued dedication to making BCHS a wonderful place to work. It is greatly appreciated and is signed by staff and faculty." Any other communication come from the board? Seeing none, we'll go on to superintendent's report, Mr. Hammer.
Yeah, I'm going to skip around just a little bit, just because Mrs. Parashow is here to talk to you about 6.4, which is the 21-22 registration process. And she's got some other things going on tonight, so Carol, if you'll come up, please. She's just going to give you just kind of a review of what we have planned for next year's registration. You gotta turn the button on.
Can you hear me now?
No?
You still can? Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay. All right, so I'm Carol Parashow. I'm the high school counselor. Nice to see you guys again. So we're getting ready for registration. We are not off schedule. We're actually right on schedule like we were last year. So that's really good to know. COVID hasn't really knocked us off our game on that. We are going to have our 8th grade night. We decided to split that into 2 nights. We're going to have it on Tuesday, February 23rd for students' last names A through Johnson. It's going to be 7 o'clock here. And then the next Wednesday, February 24th, will be the Joneses through Z, 7 o'clock here as well. So we decided to do that to social distance everybody. There are limitations. They can only bring 1 parent per student. We're not allowing any siblings to come in. And of course, we're going to really try to enforce the seating. Students can sit by their parents, but we're not going to let people just sit wherever they want. So we hope everybody will be cooperative with that. We did ask that the parents not switch nights, mainly for the numbers and for us keeping track of everybody. So, and kind of the defense I have with that is usually we only have 1 night for 8th grade graduation and everybody comes to that. So if they could just think of their alphabet as their 1 night, it would just be the same as we always do 8th grade registration. So when we do 8th grade registration, we have their new registration sheet. We introduce them to the new, this is the new updated course registration guide. So I go through that with them. And of course, Mr. English will go in a little bit more detail when he talks about his. So here at the high school, on Wednesday, we have All School Academy. And so the All School Academy teachers, freshmen, sophomore, and juniors, they'll be prepping their students. They'll be showing them the registration guide. They'll be going over the course description guide, guiding them through the classes they can have for the next year, going over graduation requirements. Everybody is now on the new graduation requirements of 44 and 48. So we're now on that schedule. We do have some new classes that Mrs. Conroe has added. So we're going to review those to the students. We really want to push the dual credit, the AP classes, and the advanced classes to our upperclassmen. So they're going to do that at All School Academy. And then the next week after that, February 16th through the 18th, on Tuesday, I'll go in with the junior classes. I'll do presentations with them here in the auditorium so they can all be here together. Wednesday's the sophomore, and then Thursday are the freshmen. So I go one-on-one in the classes, review things with them, talk to them about their transcripts if they have any questions. We always hand out the transcripts to our sophomores and our juniors to make sure that everything on the transcript is correct. You know, there's always errors whenever you're doing a lot of data input. So they'll be seeing their transcripts either on All School, well, we do have free for All School Academy on Wednesday. And then the next week after that, we just go back into the classrooms and we register them. So we'll have cards for the students that don't have their Chromebooks, because everybody can register on their Chromebooks now. So we'll just keep them in their social distance classes, make sure everybody has a Chromebook. They'll get on the Chromebook, they'll register, and then we'll have our classes set for next year. So that's about it. Again, I just want to say that Ms. Conroe worked really, really hard to get her dual credit classes in here. So we have some really nice course offerings for them. And again, all of our dual credit classes are back on the table, and we really hope that this COVID hasn't, you know, kind of dampered the kids as far as coming to school. And then our juniors, they also received this little pamphlet for All School Academy. It's a college prep pamphlet. It has all of the Montana colleges in it and some FAFSA and ACT information. And then the seniors, they all get a scholarship list, their transcripts, some information on letters of recommendation, and then a budgeting worksheet that we go over for the seniors. So this is their kind of senior file to start their scholarships and keep their information straight. So that's about it. Do I have any questions? Anybody? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Okay, Gary, we'll go back to 6.1 and 6.2, which is the school improvement project update, and Dan, we need the order report. Dan, you're on.
Excellent. Good evening, everybody. All right, perfect. Yeah, guys, I appreciate you doing it this way. I mean, if we're at that end of that project where, you know, the time to come down and spend a few minutes with you, not that I don't miss seeing you guys all in person, but this is a good way of just trying to wrap everything up and close us out here on this BW Lodge project. So, as Mr. Haversfield said during the claims, we had, now that we were able to get our test and balance done on that new BW Lodge edition, we were able to release our final payment. We were holding retainage for our mechanical and plumbing contractors. In doing so, I visited with Nina, who is one of Swank's business managers, about processing that final payment. As Ramona and I actually had a conversation last time I was down it was 3 weeks ago or so, about the gross receipts tax. In the past, ESI, when they were doing the work, actually managed that. In my conversations with the Swank group, there was a little misunderstanding on my part that I was believing that they were taking care of that. So anyway, we'll get into that. We'll talk a little bit. We're all complete with the project. We've turned over the contractor and the consultants have turned over as-built documents. Those are getting filed away electronically on my end, as well as Ed and I has copies of all of that for the district's records. So as I stated, we're releasing the final $26,790 of retainage for the mechanical and plumbing portion of the work. That officially will close out our contract with Swank Enterprises for the work associated with BW Lodge. Our total project cost ended up coming in at $2.636 million. See, I have a typo on my document there, but what was paid to Swank was $2,609,737.25. The other claim that you approved tonight was for the Department of Revenue. As part of these projects, there's a 1% gross receipts tax held back on any public project. We're paying that all in one lump sum. We could have done it differently where we would have pulled it out on a monthly basis. That was my misunderstanding. We probably should have been doing that, but they'll be happy that they received their check one way or another. So that's what that was. That was a misunderstanding on my part of how Swank managed those pay applications and the release of that gross receipts money. So with that being said, our BW Lodge project is complete. There's a few items that are owner provided that we'll see down below. There's a couple items that we'll get to start to discuss. So you'll look on page 3, that shows the pay application and what was approved for payment this go around, and that'll officially close this out. Next steps for the architect, we will issue a document that is truly a substantial completion, and that'll be based on the date after test and balance was completed. That was about 2 weeks ago, so that's being drafted by the architect, and we should be officially closed out with this piece of work. Any questions on the BW Lodge project as far as the overall construction?
Status of band cabinet doors.
Yep, so that's the next item, number 3 on my list. We've got an estimate, it's a little over $10,000. So during the design and review, the band cabinets were an owner-supplied, contractor-installed item. At some point during the design team's review of those cabinets with staff, something happened in translation where the cabinets were ordered didn't include doors for the garment storage, and then there was a miss on the actual sheet music storage. So if you go down to page to be about page 12. So back there, you'll see a second copy of the agenda with some stuff whited out. You'll see the attachment that is the quote from school equipment, Montana School Equipment, for the purchase of the music storage cabinets, which the following page is an example of what that was. And then let's see here. So those cabinets, there's a 4-run storage, and then there's also some doors that we're looking at adding to the garment storage. So this is that fine line of owner-directed purchase. There was a miss, obviously, on the confirmed order form, trying to identify the how we fund it. This is an item that we would have paid for it. What the solution is not the doors that were originally understood to be there, which was a solid panel door that's able to be locked. The solution that is proposed in front of you is a wire doors that can be locked, much like that band equipment storage. So this is a cost that we're going to incur. The idea is to figure out if we can negotiate to share some of those costs or have those costs shared with us. Really the top items on that quote, the 4 quantity and the Fleetwood storage pull-out units, those are things that we just never purchased. So that's really going to be the piece that the district, we're going to have to find those dollars. The next items, the full-length doors and accessory hardware necessary to install those are the things I'm working with the architect to see if we can get some assistance on those. What I would need is just approval to get this moving forward from Gary, Mr. Haverfield, and the board to get the process started. I've met with Katie. She's comfortable with the wire mesh doors. We'll just need to figure out a dust cover for the band uniforms when they're in storage. I have been in contact with another band teacher who actually was Katie's student teacher in Florence, and I think I may have an opportunity to sell the extras. So in the miss on the order provided, there were double the amount of cabinets that were purchased, and there again, that's just a flat miss. I think on the architect verifying what exactly we were getting, and that's that piece where we're trying to make it whole by finding somebody else to buy them, so that we're not out of pocket on those added cabinets.
Dan, I just got to ask. I've had this discussion with you. You know how I feel about this.
Yep.
I want to know what your discussion with NE45 was regarding the MIST. We wanted wooden doors. Now we can't get them. Now we're going to settle for metal doors. Not acceptable. I want to know what their response was of why they dropped the ball.
They're looking into their files to try to find the communication with Katie to see where that transition happened. The discussion was it was in a time of transition between different project managers, and I don't think it was followed through properly, is really what it comes down to. Obviously, it's difficult to have a full admission of that from not necessarily accepting the responsibility for it.
So you're telling me they're not accepting any responsibility for this?
We're working through it, Gary. I'm trying to be as, there's several other items that they're coming to the table on other subjects, and this is another one I'm trying to have them buy into some responsibility. It's it's kind of a constant dance right now, unfortunately, with that piece as well as some other items that are going on in the MOAG building. So I'll try to get a better update for you and a commitment from them on what they can do. What I'm trying to do is to sell some of them to make it sting less for everybody. Montana School Equipment has said they're trying. I haven't got a whole lot of traction from them either. Unfortunately, once they're purchased, they kind of put their hands up and say, well, they're yours now. So there's a few different pieces that we're working to try to close the loop on.
Well,
Okay.
you know how I feel about it.
I do. And I'm trying to find that little bit of evidence that we can push them to make the district whole on. I would prefer to get rid of them all and bring the right ones in. And that's another option, but we have 10 of these cabinets now that are perfectly good for somebody if we can find someone to purchase them from us. But I think we're going to have the same problem, is that they're not able to secure whatever's being stored in there, and that's where we're struggling with Katie right now. To make sure that they're secure and they're protected from the elements, so to speak.
Well, there's been multiple mishaps on their part. As you're well aware of, this is just another one.
Yep.
The list is kind of long.
It is.
And the design team's work in some areas has not been acceptable.
Yeah, it's definitely a multi-faceted issue, and it's not just on the BW Lodge. There's several items as we've discussed it in length at other meetings. So this is just another one to try to get resolution to make you guys as whole as we can. There's the hardest part of like the music storage. Those were just never ordered, so we can at least get the right ones. And that's the part that we just didn't buy them. Now, would we have to spend as much because we ordered extra cabinets? It would have probably been about a wash of what we ordered if we wouldn't have bought the extra cabinets and got the right thing. So that's that balance of trying to get them to own some responsibility for the extra cabinets that were ordered and for the repairs. To bring them up to what we expect. Okay? So
I'd like to see a written report to the board regarding 45 Architecture's response to this particular issue.
Okay. Got it. So that's one of those, the GC's work is closed out. There are some of these little items like that we just discussed that we'll continue to have additional conversations in regards to. And the next one was one that I actually just received this morning from Ed Nye regarding the boiler pumps. They are existing pumps that we're using to feed the hot water system for the entire BW Lodge project. They're existing. The added capacity with the new units, it's struggling to maybe deliver the amount of hot water that's needed to heat the entire system, and is looking to put it on a maintenance list for future consideration and replacement. This is one of those items that I think during the initial budgeting of the BW Lodge, maybe some of these things were considered and just decided that the pumps were sized accordingly to be able to handle it. They're not in need of repair because they're not working properly. It's just that they may be undersized for the amount of water that we have to move now with the new units. So put it on my list. I'm going to continue to have it there as a topic. I think it's something that as we look at the bond dollars and what happens with the VOAG building, this is an item along with some of these alternates that we've been holding on to. I think this is an item that we want to consider as a priority when we determine if and when there's bond dollars available at the end of the project. I just want to get on our list. It's going to stay there. We'll continue to talk about it as that project starts to, as we get more information from the district's legal and what next steps that we're going to take on that end. So just for a heads up for the Board of Trustees to be aware that there's some additional work just from a maintenance standpoint that we may want to address with some of those bond dollars. Okay. Any other items on the BW Lodge? Weight room, wrestling room performing the way we hoped. I mean, we haven't been in the band room that long, but how are people feeling about the new facilities?
Well, from what I hear, good.
Good. Okay. Well, that's excellent. It's good to hear. All right, so let's go ahead and move down. We'll jump into the what we call phase 1 and 2. That's the VOAG discussion. I was able to finally get a hold of our contact with Pierce Flooring. They've agreed verbally to the request that we had to have them come down, heat and roll all of the seams in the science wing, all that LVT that we've got. They have agreed to heat and roll those to flatness and give us an extended warranty of a year. And the agreement is, and will be in writing before they actually do the work, that if those start to fail in any way, that they'll come in and replace the entire flooring for us. So the next step is to get them scheduled and get that draft complete. I spoke with Chris Goss today to help me draft that, to make sure that when we agree to let them come in, that document will be signed that would extend their warranty from completion date out a year. I spoke to Mr. Haverfield middle of last month. It was after the board meeting, but about that, he had said summer is when he'd like him to come in. It's going to probably take him 2-3 days to do so. I did look at your calendar and was wondering if spring break is an option, just so we can live with it for a few months before then it's unoccupied over the summer. But it's a question I thought I would pose to the board. And to you, Mr. Haverfield. Obviously, it's something that I finally got that confirmation that they're willing to accept our offer. And I just wanted to let you guys know and see what you think.
My response then is that the very next step is in writing from Pierce Flooring. They gave us a runaround on multiple occasions on multiple parts of this project. It needs to be in writing, and then we'll want it done over the summer. Okay, perfect. I will get that handled. Like I said, I spoke to Chris Goss today about some other items. I told him this was coming down. He was happy to hear it. And so I'll get that drafted, have him review it. I'll submit it to Pierce for acceptance, and then we'll schedule them for after school is let out in June. The sooner we can get a schedule with them, the better, so we can have our summer maintenance schedule around what they're going to be doing, because we can
Sure.
with it without. So obviously we've got lots of tables and chairs and everything else to move out of there.
Right. Yeah, so I'll look to get that done here in the next week or two with Chris and over to them for acceptance, and get it to you, Mr. Haverfield, for your records. Okay. So just the last quick discussion is that, I met with Mr. Chris Goss today via phone, and we discussed the proceedings things are moving forward with the VOAG portion. I know that the board has been receiving those updates from him. It turns out that now all the legal team is together and has been selected for the ESI side. It looks like we will be hopefully getting a mediator selected and moving forward with those discussions. I don't know, Mr. Haberfield, if you're going to share any of your conversations. I know you visited with.
I am going to share my conversation with Chris Goss and the board, yes.
Okay, perfect. So you'll get a little bit better, another update from Mr. Haberfield on that, and probably give you a little bit more information. What I did tell him, I'm carrying costs that are associated with that. When we've issued the initial documents to their legal teams, we had budgets in there for items. Just want to let the district know I've been carrying costs that would be applied to that. And so at some point, I wouldn't mind in a work session potentially sitting down and talking with the board on how they'd like to structure any kind of an added service once we get going. I did ask Mr. Goss today, we will most likely have to reselect a general contractor to do the work that would be required to fix the VOAG. And so asked him for some guidance on when we should start. I'd like to start that process sooner than later, so that if a settlement is reached, that we can do that work over the summer. So that's something that I would like to start working on to get us teed up and ready for any work that would be for us to be able to complete over the summer and get it started to where they're out of our way by the start of the school year in September of 21.
And I don't disagree with you. The scope of work has to be determined.
Yep.
And I don't know how we're going to have to put out the bid. So
Yeah.
determine the scope of work. I don't know how we can start to talk to contractors about work because we don't know what the scope of work is actually going to entail. So then we can't bid it because we don't know what the scope of work is going to entail.
Yeah, so the conversation that Chris and I had is directly related to that, is looking at a design, so an alternative delivery similar to the GCCM contract that we currently have in place with our past two GCs. We look at a design build contract where it's an alternative delivery because it allows them to come in and help define those scopes of work, and then we negotiate based on a bidding process what the scopes and the cost would be. So it is something that Chris has seen, is comfortable for. It's the items that I'd like to discuss with you, maybe in a facilities group, say, hey, this is what it looks like. It allows us to get somebody on board to be our partner early, to define and detail those scopes of work in a way that we can go out and bid it and not necessarily lose a bunch of schedule. It's something I've done a ton in the past, very comfortable with it, and it's something that's happening more and more, and this might be the perfect project to make it happen with potentially the short window of time that we have to get work done. So that might be something I would pose to a group of facility members if we would like to get together in the next couple of weeks to talk about. I would love to get that kind of drafted and out for review to your group as well as Chris Goss to make sure he'd be comfortable with it.
Dan, the status of the design team's work on the boiler room at the new building, and
Yep.
what the
So
engineering guys are saying or not saying, and why we have got an update from them.
Yep, so I sent out a letter to be included in our notice of claim regarding some leaks in our welding gas manifolds. That work's actually been repaired by Premier Plumbing. The district was losing quite a bit of welding gas unbeknownst until the bills kept coming in. The other item is in the boiler room. The boiler, when the building goes negative, meaning it starts to try to suck air into the building when we have our mechanical dust collectors running, that boiler system is struggling to keep the flame within the actual boiler itself, and then we're getting a large amount of CO2 built up in our boiler rooms. So I visited with the design team. It's at times an interesting fight when we've got a person on the ground that's our mechanical contractor, is seeing what it's doing, writes a description of what he feels needs to be fixed or to be addressed. And the engineers are looking at their calculations and going, well, it should be fine. So I'm waiting to get Jason from Premier, who we've contracted with to do the welding gas piece. We've also asked him to look at the boiler room. He gave his suggestion. He's been pulled out of service in the Dillon area. I'm waiting for him to get back on site so that he can physically be in the room talking with the engineer. The scope that we feel is a potential solution is to add a combustion air fan to our existing louver. So what that would mean is there would be a new fan, a controller that when the boiler triggered to come on, there would be a fan that would kick on and push air to positively pressurize the room to ensure that we have enough combustion air. This is part of our claim going forward, and I let them know it again that there is a design component, that if in fact the louver size is too small and we're going to have to mechanically provide enough fresh air for the boiler, that's something that we shouldn't have had to do. It's an added cost that we shouldn't have to be covering. And I put them on notice that no matter what, we need to get it fixed, and then to look that it would be part of our claim. We do have a portion of our claim that is directed at the design team, so they will have to step up and hold and pay for those things that are determined to be a direct cause from the design. So they at least came to the table and are understanding where their position is. I just need to get Jason available to have the conversation with Joe from Morrison Maryland. And he's hopefully supposed to be in town this week to make it happen. And as soon as that happens, we're contracted to let him know that he needs to proceed. We will pay him, and that's all portion of the claim. All those dollars are being included with any communication Chris Goss has with ESI's legal counsel.
Dan, this is Gary. You mentioned that the mediator hadn't been selected yet. I thought we had found a person that showed up
Yep.
for both of this.
Yep, and that's what my understanding was. In my conversation with Chris today, the attorney was for ESI was selected to represent the insurance company as well, and for some reason they didn't want to accept anything until after that was done. I didn't realize that. I thought it happened in December, and I don't know. There's a few things that Chris is concerned that there might be, some slow play for a reason or two. I don't know. That's where I think Mr. Haverfield might have a little more of an update on that. But he was supposed to have heard back from him today. Was supposed to call me before the end of the day if he had. So he must not received a call. But the lists are almost identical, so it shouldn't be an issue. There was a desire that Chris expressed that we want this so these kids can be into a complete building by the start of school year in 2021. And hopefully that will light a little bit of a fire, especially since there's additional items getting added to their notice of claim.
I can just give the board a little bit of an update. Chris Goss was to meet with the council for ESI last week on Thursday. They canceled, postponed it to Friday. The purpose of that meeting was to select a mediator. Chris got a hold of legal counsel for ESI on Friday. He was not ready to select a mediator because he was debating about whether or not how they're going to handle the payment that they feel they're owed versus the efficiency of work that we feel is that they. And so he wasn't ready to select a mediator until they figured out how they were going to do that. And so as of yet, they have yet to select one because that's what happened last week on Friday. And so I don't know what to tell you other than that's where we're at with them. It appears to be a bit of a, I don't know how to respond to it other than it's stalling or not sure what to do or whatever the case may be, but we're trying to work through it and trying to get that done. My last conversation with Chris Goss told me it's at least 2 months before the meeting. Once you select the mediator, it's at least 2 months before the mediation takes place. Well, it's February, it's almost mid-February right now. And so we're looking at March, April, and we're going to try to get work done over the summer. And that's a stretch, man.
I know, and I expressed that to Chris today. Unless it's a quick, they realize that they're in a position where it's, I think having the insurance company involved, they probably have a different outlook on things versus the way the contractor might. So it's trying to get them to come to the table as quickly as we can. And I think staging that work in a way that addresses all of the occupied spaces, and then how do we, whatever solution is for the insulation requirements and the building envelope, how do we do those things that could be done potentially with students in the building because it's all exterior work. There's a potential of that as well. So those are the things that get somebody on board in a contracting partner, just to be able to be ready to go when we need them, I think will help us maybe navigate some of that scheduling conflict that we might experience towards the end of the summer.
Yeah, it's just the length of time it's taken to do this just seems astronomical to me.
Well, it's been since June that we've really started down the hard path with Chris on board, and it's definitely like been pushing the rope, that's for sure.
Okay, the concerns we have with the facility over there, trying to heat it on weeks like this, and I guess we'll see how that plays out this week. We get the 20 below there. It's a struggle.
Yeah, the other thing that we'll need to look at doing, and it's a conversation you'd have with Ed, is to actually look at sealing up that boiler room. The doors right now have fairly good gaps at the bases. They're not sealed doors to where that combustion air, when we put a fan on it. Right now, he's got a makeshift fan to bring some air in there. I think that might be something that we need to look at. I'll be traveling down this week, trying to close out the YMCA project. My plan was to come down and spend the day and part of the day with Ed to go back through it with Jason, get Josh from Morrison Merrily, or Joe, sorry, not Josh, from Morrison Merrily to talk and put a direction in there for Jason to be able to fix, put a temporary fix in there, that then we can try to make that as safe as possible. Real quick on is there a time that would make sense in the next few weeks to pull a group of folks together to talk about the next steps with general contractors and those kind of things, or would you like to wait to hear from Chris before we do that?
Yeah, I'm not sure how to respond to that, Dan.
Okay.
I'm sure we have people here that would be willing to sit down and discuss those types of things.
What I'll do is I'll draft a little document to talk about what the path that I think is something that could benefit us in this piece. I'll send it to you, Mr. Haverfield. You can share it with the board. And then if we want to have a conversation about the differences in BCCM and design build and the pros and cons, just in a project like this, then at least we can start that dialogue in preparation for something. So when I do that, I'll get that sent out before the end of the week that you guys can share. Then we can look out maybe a couple weeks from then to see if folks have questions or if we need to get together. Okay? Any other questions?
Doesn't sound like there's any more questions, Dan.
Okay. Well, I'll hang here for a little bit. I appreciate it, guys.
Thank you, Dan.
Thanks, Dan. Okay, so we get 6.5. This little update on leadership team's work, evaluation of the data, work returning to level 2. We'll talk about this in the action item, but I guess the positive is that the recommendation is going to be level 3 goes away. The AP schedule is no longer, we're not using the AP schedule anymore. We're returning to level 2. And we'll talk about that in the action item meeting. So we reviewed the data, and it's time to move forward. And so anyway, just so you know, we'll talk about the action item. 6.6, student count day was February 1st. We have 309 students currently enrolled. Last year, this time we had 320, and in October, we had an enrollment of 323. 6.7, trustees, 3-year term update. We have 2 trustees whose terms are up this year, Mike Richardson and Chris Reaver, and I think Ms. Blouse does have those forms for you to renew. So we're trying to do so. Let's go see her. Let's go see her, please. So that's all I have in my report, Mr. Bowles.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Haverfield. Any board members have any questions or comments for Mr. Haverfield? Okay, if not, we'll go on to the assistant principal's report.
The first piece of my report is the 7.1, the MHSA annual update. There were no new proposals this year for MHSA. There is currently a study going on studying the feasibility of high school baseball. Some of the other things I think that would be of interest to the crowd would be some initial details on basketball divisional and state tournament and wrestling divisional and state tournament. What we know so far is that basketball divisional for the Western A is going to be in Butte. There will be 2 play-in games in the south and 2 in the north to cut the field to 4 teams from the north and 4 from the south. So it's an 8-team tournament, both boys and girls. The girls tournament will be at the MAC, which is the Maroon Athletic Complex where Beat Central plays. The boys tournament will be at the Civic Center. Each team will be allowed a max of 40 passes that are only good for their team's games and only at their team's venue. So for instance, the boys' passes might be maroon colored, and those passes would only get them into Beaver games at the Civic Center. They're allowing 12 cheerleaders, no bands, and no fans for the cheerleaders. They are allowing 20 administrative passes that Mr. Haverfield and I are working on to visit with you a little bit about a prioritized system of distributing those passes. So that's divisional basketball. State basketball is also in Butte, and I would assume that it's going to be pretty similar. Divisional wrestling is going to be up in Libby. We got the initial plan today for the wrestling tournament up in Libby, and we're still reviewing that and kind of shaking out the details. They are allowing fans. And I think it'll be pretty similar to what Beat Central's allowing. and we would intend to send support groups as far north as Libby. State wrestling is going to be in Miles City, and we don't have any details or what to expect about fans and support groups in Miles City. It's just the A, they're not doing a combined state tournament anymore. The divisional tournament will be 2 days with the weight classes from 103 to 150 the first day, and then 150 up the second day. Okay, that's MHSA stuff. 8th grade registration night, you already heard from Ms. Parashow on that. Milepost update, in the last month we've had 22 behavior incidents, 2 events which entailed 7 different behavior incident codes took place, and those were ranged from drugs and alcohol to weapons to some disorderly conduct, all of which involved the police department as well. As far as we had 17 minor events, which ranged from cell phones to disorderly conduct to a whole bunch of parties. And that's the milepost update.
Thank you, John.
Yeah.
Anybody have any questions or comments about Mr. English's report? Seeing none, we'll go on to consent agenda items, Mr. Harrison.
8.1, Mr. English interviewed for one of our open assistant track positions, and he's recommending we hire Paige Holmes for one of those positions, and I would concur with his recommendation.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to hire Paige Holmes as an assistant track coach. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously.
8.2, Mr. English interviewed for one of our open assistant track positions, and he is recommending we hire Mark Maroney for that position, and I would concur with his recommendation.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to hire Mike Marini as an assistant track coach. Mark, it says Mike.
What's that? Mark.
Is it Mark? What is he? Okay, that's right. Any other comments? Okay, those in favor of hiring Mark Marini as assistant track coach, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Passes unanimously. Okay, on the action items, Mr. Harrison.
9.1, included in your packet a copy of the resolution calling for an election. It's my recommendation that this resolution be approved tonight.
I so move.
Motion, one second. Been moved and seconded to approve the resolution calling for an election. It would be when? Any discussion? If not, those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Also passes unanimously.
9.2, included in your packet a copy of the first semester TR5 individual transportation contract reimbursements for the first semester, and my recommendation to approve those tonight.
Been moved and seconded to approve the 2 TR5 individual contract reimbursements. Any comments or discussion? If not, those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously.
9.3, TR6 bus route reimbursement. Included in your packet is a copy of the first semester TR6 bus route transportation contract reimbursements, and my recommendation to approve those tonight.
I so move.
Been moved and seconded to approve the TR6 bus route reimbursements. Those will just reimburse back to transportation. Any other discussion? If not, those in favor of approving those TR6s say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Okay. Next is Board policies, good.
Yeah, first reading revised board policies. Everybody get a chance to read through these? Hopefully. Well, on January 1st, 2021, legislative referendum 130, initiative 190 is approved by the voters on November 3rd, 2020, became law. LR 130 general restricts the county, city, town, consolidated local government, or other local government units authority to regulate the carry of firearms. I 190 legalized possession and use of limited amounts of marijuana for adults over the age of 21. These two statutory changes have a direct relationship to school district operations and the enforcement of school district policies. And so, before you tonight, we have 4 policies that we're asking you to revise as a result of this passage. So we'll go through 3310. The first one in your packet, I believe. And so, as always with revisions, the underlying additions to the policy that we currently have, anything that's crossed out would be a subtraction. So, on the first page, 1 of 3 of 3310, there's some wording that's added in a building, property owner leased by school district or a school bus. Obviously, on line 21, they used the word marijuana, that was passed. Go over to page 2 of that. Nothing on there that has changed from our current policy in place. And on page 3 of 3, there's nothing that has changed on that other than if you look at the very bottom on lines 34 and 35, it refers to initiative Y90, which is Montana Marijuana Regulation and Taxation Act, January 1, 2020. So those are the additions to board policy 3310 as a result of recent legislation that was passed. If you go to policy 4315, the next one in your packet, this is visitor and spectator conduct. On line 14, that line is in addition, possessing or consuming illegal substance or marijuana. Line 15, any school building has been added. And then obviously on lines 40 and 41, initiative I-90, which is Montana Marijuana Regulation and Taxation Act, January 1, 2020. So those are the additions, 4315, that are recommended by the School Boards Association as a result of those legislations being passed. If you go to the next policy in your packet, which is board policy 4332, conduct on school property. If you look at line 20, possesses weapons as defined in policy 3310 and 3311 in a school building at any time, that's an addition. That's the only thing that's added to policy 4332 as a result of the legislation. This one? Oh yeah, that's right, line 18. They have to repair marijuana, right?
The next one, does the weapons bill that sounds like it's going to be passed, it still doesn't allow weapons? That's what I see.
The board has the authority to allow that. The last policy, board policy, that's not the last one, it's 5223, which is personal conduct. And so if you look at the first page, 1 of 2, lines 20, added while in a school building, employees shall not, and you can read the rest of that. On lines 30, 24, and 25, school building means any buildings owned or leased by a school district that are used for instruction or for student activities. That's the first page. Yep, that's all on board policy 5223. So that's the additions to our current policy 5223. The last policy is board policy 5226, drug-free workplace. So now there's, if you look on lines 11, the deletion is including employees possessing a medical marijuana card. That's been deleted. Lines 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26 are all additions. For the purpose of this policy, controlled substances defined as, and then they got rid of the one that is, and they've added all those things as a result of I-190 being passed. And so so you know, if you're wondering. Students, staff, or visitors who possess or consume marijuana at school or on school property or on a school bus will be in violation of the law and by extension school district policy, just so you know, regardless. That's still the definition. Just want you guys to know that. So that's the additions on the first page and the subtractions on the first page. And if you go to page 2, just it adds the initiative I-90, the Montana Marijuana Regulation Taxation Act, and the 2020, and it deletes Johnson versus Columbia Falls Aluminum Company, which is a court case that set statute many years ago regarding marijuana on the use of marijuana on the workplace. So those are the changes to 5226. Again, these policies are recommended by the Montana School Boards Association as a result of those 2 pieces of legislation being passed. My recommendation that all those policies, all 5 policies, 4 policies are approved for a first reading tonight. I can certainly answer questions. Yeah.
For first reading on all policies.
Been moved and seconded to approve first reading for revision of board policies number 33K, 4315, 5223, 5226. Are there any questions, comments, or discussion on any of those policies? Seeing none, those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Also passes unanimously.
9.5, return to level 2 recommendation. So I kind of alluded to this a little bit. Our committee has met 3 times. We've assessed the data. You have that review data sheet before you. You can see that the data is very positive for us moving forward. And so we said we reviewed this at the February 8th meeting, which we are doing. So the recommendation from the leadership team is that we no longer are in level 3. The AB schedule goes away, go back to level 2. The only exception that they have on there is they would like the next 2 Fridays to be used for non-proficient days, so that they deem me the person who would go out and research alternate programs for our opt-out students, which cause our staff a ton of extra work. So we're looking for different programs to maybe put them on, so there's less work for our staff regarding the opt-out students, which many schools are doing. They have a different program for our opt-out students that don't work at all. Other than that, it's all students all days except for those 2 days.
Gary, did you repeat that into the mic? We missed about 80% of it.
You missed 80% of that? Okay. You want all of it?
One more time.
Okay. Can you hear me? So they reviewed the data. The data obviously very positive to move forward, and so the recommendation from the leadership team is no longer operate in level 3. Do away with the AB schedule. Return all students, all days for all students. The only exception they have would be the next 2 Fridays, which is this Friday and the following Friday. Use those 2 Fridays as non-proficient days to allow us the opportunity to review some other programs to try to get our opt-out kids maybe involved in other programs that will relieve some of the workload on some of our teachers have to deal with those opt-out students. But other than that, it's returned to level 2, all students, all days, other than those 2 days.
Gary, could you comment on some of the extra duties the teachers have to do with the opt-out?
Yeah, it's lesson planning, Google Classroom stuff, documenting and putting some, and probably Janet can speak to it way better than I can, but there's just a lot of extra work that they have to download onto the website and into their lesson planning to prepare, to provide those kids with the best possible experience they can. Some of our teachers work at an extremely long time to try to provide that information to our kids online. It's time consuming, it's a lot of work. That's why some schools have chosen to go to an alternate online program for true opt-out, full-time opt-out kids. And so they asked us to look into that to see what some of the possibilities were. That's why they asked for those two Fridays. And it does take, you know, Mr. Nordahl got a number of responses back from our staff, and the time that some of those people spend it's extensive. And so, and then, anyway, they just asked for those 2 Fridays to allow us to research that, to see if we can find something else for them. And but other than that, it's back to level 2, and it's all students, all days. So, if you like this time, it's time. So, questions that you guys have?
Well, it's really important to have those 2 minutes today.
Are you asking me?
Yes.
Okay, well, the leadership team, which is, you know, partially administration, Gary's on there, and a number of teachers, they felt like it was warranted. They feel like a couple days, which is basically it's given me 2 weeks to try to figure out, is there something we can do with our fully opted out students, and then relieve some of the duties that maybe some of the staff has for those kids. And so, anyway, your guess is, I mean, they feel like it's warranted. I'm not doing the work, so, I mean, my recommendation is it's time to go back. Time to go back, that's, you know, but that's their concern with those 2 days. And that's the reason behind those 2 days. So, other thoughts?
What kind of
Well, yeah, well, I talked to Randy at the middle school and the elementary district, and they have a program that they use. It's, you know, it's kind of pricey, but and there's limits on. I mean, they don't, you know, we only have 22 fully opted out students, and so, you know, for us to spend a huge amount of money on 22 students depends on the cost, but the program that the elementary district has is, in my opinion, it's expensive, but they have way more kids opting out than we do, so, you know, it's obviously more beneficial to them. Twin has a program that they use. I don't know the cost of it. That's the kind of the research I've been doing to try to figure out, okay, what's available, what's out there, what can we do, and then what do we have to do to implement it, and how much work is that going to be, and then how much work is there work for the teacher still with those types of programs and stuff like that. And so obviously, talking to Randy, the program they have there, he feels like they're very satisfied with it. They think it works very, very well. They're happy with it. I think Twin feels the same way. I know Rick's son teaches in Twin, and they feel good about what they're doing. I just don't know as much about that program because I haven't talked to their superintendent yet to see what that entails. And so, and I'm sure there's others out there. And so that's why they wanted, okay, Gary, 2 weeks to figure something out. Yeah. So, other than that, it's every day all students. Yeah, you'll just have to, Gary, you'll just have to, yeah, well, you can give it to her, yeah. Don't throw it in any kind of field.
I don't know, yeah, it is. I know that we said that when we came back on the 8th, we would look at this information. We told everybody. We'd look at the information and we would evaluate and see how the numbers looked. And I don't know about you guys, but they look pretty darn good. We're fortunate to have what we have in front of us, I believe. And I've always had this in my mind, though, if the numbers are, I don't know that we had a complete number in mind, but I think it's time to go back full time.
Well, the one thing always is consistency, and I think that's happened.
That's what yes. And, you know, I mean, I appreciate what all the teachers have done. They've worked hard, and I know we purchased the View Path deal, which was fabulous, and it sounds like, you know, it's a good deal we had. And I think we need to go back all 5 days. That's my thought.
Okay. Other thoughts?
I agree with that, Joe. I'll agree with that.
I agree wholeheartedly.
Then I'll make a motion. I make a motion to go back full-time.
Go back full-time level 2,
Level 2,
all days,
all days.
starting when?
Now,
Okay, I'm just gonna make sure. No, not full-time.
I mean, that's what I think. You have something to say?
I agree. I like this time.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we go back to level 2, full-time, including these next 2 Fridays. We will start today with this level 2,
Which we're in anyway.
which we're in anyway for this week. Then we continue to wear masks.
Oh,
Absolutely.
yes.
Is that part of your recommendation?
Yeah, that's okay. Because I know we had to, that was
Well, it's part of the policy.
or part of our,
Part of your second.
part of our policy.
Now it's a motion.
Okay. Is there any other discussion or comments? Okay, those in favor of going back to full-time school, starting this week, wearing masks, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Can I make a comment, please? Mr. Haverfield and Chairman, may I make a comment?
Okay?
I do
Speak in the
want...
microphone so I can hear you.
Denise Honkamp, a parent of a student here at BCHS. I really do want to applaud the efforts of the administration, the board, and the teachers with their willingness to get back to school in person 5 days a week for kids. It's been a struggle for many to be on the online system, and so I'm, hoping that you're all confident that we can continue with this 5-day-a-week in-person instruction for our kids. There's lots of other ramifications that are happening out there because kids are not in school full-time, so I believe wholeheartedly that they deserve to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other information to come before the board? Any other agenda items?
That's all I have, Mr. Love.
Anybody else have any comments or thoughts? Ainsley, you have anything you need to say or comment on?
You awake?
No, I don't think I have anything to say.
Okay.
I have one thought. There's a lot of room there, yeah. I think it's where we can come up.
Well, yeah. John, did you hear that? Did you hear?
Yeah, just so everybody knows, we've gone, our initial numbers in the gym were 250. We found some more space and went up to 270, and about 2 weeks ago, Sue let us go up to 300. So that we've been just kind of increasing things as it goes.
So are you asking him to
Not because they're like a league. We're getting close to the time where it seems like you could let people take care of themselves, watch out for themselves, distance themselves in there. There's a lot of room in there. I think that's a battle we shouldn't have, is, sorting people out, keeping people out. I don't know how the health department feels about it, but boy, it just seemed to me like there was a lot of room in there that wasn't being used.
Well, what we can do, Pierce, is we can have John revisit the facility, find out, hey, look at the numbers. Why can't we have more now?
Right, maybe, there's not that many people that want it.
Yeah, I don't.
Anyway, I don't know.
I mean, the thing about it is, we're letting the floor in for the home people to do for the visitors, and the band members are coming, and that's only students in. If they say, let's say you go to 500, so that's 200 more. How do you separate that out? I can't answer that.
Well, that's a horrible job for John, sit there and trying to figure out how to separate it. Like I say, I think it's time for people to take care of themselves. They want to be there and want to wear a mask, which is fine. If they're worried about it, don't come. Stay away. I don't know, that's just my thought.
So I'll have, John, did you hear that? So if you would please contact Sue Hanson tomorrow, let's get her on the docket. If she wants to meet with you and I, that's fine. Let's get her ready, let's find out where we're at.
Sure.
Yep, no problem. Any other comments from board members?
I'm just wondering when the wrestling is scheduled for Wednesday, what time? Because I need to schedule officials for that. So I'm kind of curious to know when that's to start.
So I'm not following you, boys.
Quite one
I can help with that one, Gary.
This Wednesday?
Yeah.
Yeah, we've never had wrestling scheduled Wednesday. We had Coach Nelson talking to the coach up in Anaconda, but it never got to Alan Green, who's the principal there, or myself. So we don't have a home wrestling match scheduled for Wednesday.
Okay. So one other question is, I covered weigh-ins Saturday because no administrator was there.
Yeah, John, you weren't available Saturday?
I was in Helena for National Guard training until noon on Saturday. I drove back early Saturday morning, back from Helena in the snow.
That's the second time. It should be communicated if you're not going to be there.
Did you hear that?
Yeah, it was communicated to TJ, he knew.
How?
Face to face.
When?
At the previous weigh-in that week, which I covered.
So you had somebody lined up?
Sorry, I can't quite hear you, Coy.
So you had somebody lined up for that weigh-in?
Still not, I'm just getting little pieces of the
You
conversation.
said you had somebody else lined up around weigh-in?
No, I didn't. No, that's my fault, yep.
That's what I'm asking. Disappointing. Very disappointing. Our kids were to be on the bus on road conditions that were probably iffy at best. I know that because I travel the roads myself. And it's disappointing.
Yes, it is. Any other comments or thoughts before the board? Our next meeting will be on March 9th at 7 p.m. I'd like to thank all board members, the teachers, the parents and students for putting up with this thing for the last year, and hopefully we're on the road to recovery. So appreciate everything everyone's done. With that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Moving second to adjourn. Any other comments or thoughts? If not, those in favor of adjournment say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?